The story opens on two friends, Tim and Leo, getting slapped in handcuffs by the police. Both men are convicted criminals, and the cops are hauling them off to serve a 12-year sentence at Pretoria, South Africa's most secure prison, a place no inmate has ever managed to break out of. Right at the entrance gate, the warden is already waiting for them. He looks them dead in the eye and says they betrayed their own white countrymen, and now they're going to rot in this prison for the next 12 years. What the warden doesn't realize is that these aren't your average prisoners. These two are about as cunning as they come. And that unbroken streak Pretoria was so proud of? These two were about to bury it for good. Once inside, the guards run them through a thorough search before marching them toward their cells. The moment Tim steps through the gates, his mind starts working. He's already studying every corner of the place, clocking every detail. He gets locked into his cell, and right next door, Leo gets locked into his. Just a single wall separates them, so they start tapping out messages to each other through it. Night falls, and Tim doesn't sleep a wink. His head is buried in escape plans. Come morning, the wake-up bell rings through the whole prison, and the inmates file out of their cells and line up. Breakfast time rolls around, and as Tim grabs his tray and looks for a seat, he notices something odd. The prisoners are split into two groups by the color of their uniforms. Some wear blue, others wear gray. Why would inmates in the same prison be dressed so differently? To understand that, we need to rewind the story a bit. It's 1973, and South Africa is in the grip of apartheid, a system where your skin color decided how much basic human dignity you got. White citizens enjoyed every comfort the government could offer, while black citizens were treated as less than human, subjected to brutal treatment that stripped away their basic rights. Naturally, this pushed black South Africans into the streets to protest. Tim and Leo, though white themselves, had seen enough to know the system was rotten, and they threw their support behind the protest movement. The two of them started secretly handing out pamphlets urging people to speak out against apartheid, all under the police's radar. But eventually, the authorities caught wind that two white men were stirring up black citizens to demand their rights. They were arrested, dragged into court, and faced a judge who sided with the white establishment, handing down a 12-year sentence for what amounted to betraying their own race. That's how they ended up behind these walls. And here's where we learn this film is based on a true story. Back in the present, Tim is stuck wondering which table to sit at, the blue uniforms or the gray ones. An older inmate walks over and tells him to follow. He leads Tim to a table and lays out the unwritten rules. The guys in blue are the hardened criminals, murderers, thieves, rapists. The ones in gray are protesters, just like Tim and Leo, guys who stood up against the government. And here's the twisted part. Even though the blue uniform crowd committed far worse crimes, they get treated better. Meanwhile, the political prisoners, the ones who simply spoke out for black South Africans, get treated like dirt. The old man warns Tim to watch his back carefully. Right then, Leo almost sits down with the blue uniform group, but the gray uniform inmates start making noise to signal he's in the wrong spot, and he quickly moves over to sit with Tim instead. At that moment, a black cleaner accidentally drops something, and the sound catches the attention of a guard named Marcus. Marcus storms over and beats the man savagely over what amounts to nothing, purely because the cleaner is black. The blue uniform inmates watch and laugh, clearly entertained. The gray uniform group, on the other hand, is seething. This is the moment Tim fully grasps just how dangerous this prison is for guys like him. Later, during yard time, the old inmate starts feeding Tim and Leo insider knowledge about the prison. He tells them he's been locked up here for over 20 years, and in all that time, not a single prisoner has ever escaped. Every attempt gets shut down fast because the security here is airtight. Guards watching constantly, walls standing 20 feet tall. He says he's seen this look before. Every new inmate walks in thinking they'll be the one to break out, but the truth is, nobody ever has. Worse, some of the prisoners are informants for the guards, so even whispering about an escape plan could get you reported. His advice? Drop the idea entirely, because every single prisoner who's tried has ended up dead. While they're talking, another inmate has been watching them from a distance. The moment the old man walks off, this guy, named Leonard, approaches Tim and Leo and tells them not to buy into the old man's scare tactics. Yes, the prison's too massive to tunnel out of, but if they can come up with any other airtight plan, escape isn't impossible. Leonard tells them if they ever figure out a way out, to bring him in too. He wants in. He walks away, and not far off, the warden has been quietly observing the three of them the whole time, though he's too far to catch what was said. 23 days pass, and Tim's mind is racing. The walls are too high to climb, the place too sprawling to tunnel through. He's running out of options until his eyes land on the cell door's lock. He studies it closely but can't immediately figure out how to crack it. Frustrated, he sits back down, but the lock keeps nagging at him, like it's the only way out, if only he can solve it. Eventually, he decides If he can craft a duplicate key, he can walk right out. The next time a guard steps away, Tim quickly rolls up a piece of paper and jams it into the lock to get a sense of the key's shape and size. The next day, Tim brings Leo to meet with Leonard and tells him he's found a way out. Leonard's curious. What's the plan? Tim explains, if they carve a fake key out of wood, they can unlock the doors themselves. Leonard isn't impressed. There are dozens of doors in this place, and they'd need way more wood than they currently have access to. Leo suggests they could sneak some wood out of the workshop, and that idea clicks with Leonard, who officially joins their crew. Now the real planning begins. Step 1. Replicate the exact design of the keys, which are currently hanging off the belt of the prison's most ruthless guard, Marcus. During a meal, Leonard deliberately knocks his tray to the floor as a distraction. Marcus comes over to see what happened, and while he's distracted, Tim studies the keys on his belt closely, memorizing every groove and notch. When Leonard tries to pick up his own dropped plate, Marcus stops him, and instead orders the black cleaner to do it. That's his job, he sneers. The cleaner is forced to scoop up the mess while the gray uniform crowd watches, disgusted. Tim says nothing, keeping his focus locked on the keys. Back in his cell, Tim starts sketching the key design from memory, using a pencil. This process drags on for days. Whenever he gets a chance, whether in the guard's office or out in the open yard, he sneaks glances at the real keys and refines his drawing bit by bit. Eventually, he nails a perfect blueprint and discovers something useful. Every cell in the prison uses the exact same lock design. 74 days in, while working in the workshop, Tim secretly slips some wood scraps into his water bottle, stuffing a cloth on top to muffle the sound in case a guard shakes it. When the workshop shift ends, a guard eyes him suspiciously, and Tim's heart skips. Did he get caught? The guard lines everyone up for inspection, dumping water out of every bottle and checking inside. When it's Tim's turn, the guard empties his bottle and shakes it. No sound, thanks to the cloth wedged at the bottom holding the wood in place. Satisfied, the guard lets him go. Back in his cell, Tim gets to work. After hours of careful carving following his sketch, he finally finishes a key. Time to test it. He slides it into the lock and turns. Nothing. His heart sinks, thinking all that effort was wasted, but he doesn't give up and tries again, and this time, his face lights up. The key works. He's cracked his own cell door. But the celebration is short-lived. Beyond his cell is a second, heavier steel door, and worse, its lock is on the outside, completely out of reach from inside the cell. This is a major roadblock. The next day, Tim brings this problem to his crew. He's got the first door handled, but the steel door's lock sits outside, beyond his reach. They'll need an entirely different approach to open it from inside. Tim goes back to studying Marcus's keychain, this time focusing on the steel door's key, and after more days of meticulous work, he manages to replicate it. To test it, Tim sneaks over to the steel door in broad daylight this time, with Leonard standing watch to flag any approaching guards. The key is stiff going into the lock, so Tim pulls it out and files it down with a sharp tool before trying again. This time, the lock turns, but then it won't retract back into place. Panicking, Tim forces the key, and the tip snaps off inside the lock mechanism. Just then, Leonard rushes over, warning him a guard is approaching. Tim's hands start shaking under the pressure as he tries to dig the broken piece out with his fingers. No luck. Leo tosses him a knife, and Tim manages to pry the fragment loose just in time, abandoning the door and slipping away before the guard arrives. Luckily, the approaching guard, a heavy-set man, doesn't notice anything off and walks past. Once he's gone, Tim returns to try and push the lock back into place, but it won't budge. He leaves it as is and retreats to his cell. That evening, when Marcus comes by, he notices the steel door is hanging open and pauses, puzzled. Tim, lying in his cell, is terrified he's about to get caught. But Marcus doesn't dig deeper. He assumes the heavy-set guard left it open by mistake and simply shuts it. Tim breathes a sigh of relief at the sound of the door closing. The next morning, Leonard's son comes to visit, and Leonard lights up seeing him. But the boy speaks to his father in French, which sets Marcus off. Speaking French is against the rules. Marcus cuts the visit short after just 5 minutes, even though every prisoner is supposed to get a full 30 minutes with family. Leonard pleads, but Marcus ignores him and drags the boy away, clearly relishing Leonard's helplessness. This pushes Leonard over the edge. He's now determined to escape no matter what it takes. 142 days in, the trio is stuck on a critical problem. How do you unlock the steel door from inside the cell if the lock is on the outside, completely out of reach? While they're huddled discussing it, a guard approaches. Leonard spots him in time, and they all snap into just cleaning mode. Marcus asks what's going on, and they claim they're tidying the cell. He buys it and walks off. That's when Leo notices the broom in Leonard's hand and gets an idea. What if they use the broom handle to reach the lock through the window bars? If they tie the key to the end of the stick, they could feed it through the bars and reach the door. Everyone likes the idea, but there's a catch. Getting the stick to the lock is one thing. Actually turning the key from that distance is another challenge entirely. The solution comes to Tim the next day in the workshop, watching another inmate operate a mechanical device. He drills 2 holes into a small block of wood, drills a hole into the broom handle, and screws the wood block onto the stick, creating a makeshift turning mechanism. To test it, Tim feeds the stick out through his cell window, trying to guide the key into the lock. To improve his aim, he rigs a small mirror onto the device so he can see exactly where the key is heading. After a lot of fiddling, he finally gets the key into the lock and starts to turn it. But the key slips off the stick and falls. Tim panics. If a guard spots that key on the floor come morning, he's as good as dead. But Tim had a backup plan. He pulls the gum out of his mouth, sticks it onto the end of the broom handle, and uses it to pick the key back up. He tries again, and this time, the lock clicks open. Tim is overjoyed. The next day, he shares the news with Leonard and Leo, and they're thrilled. Now, keeping all these fake keys on them is risky, too easy to get caught. So they bury the keys in a hole during gardening duty as a hiding spot. Unfortunately, Marcus has been watching them from a distance and goes straight to Leo, checking his bag, which only has fertilizer in it. He moves on to Tim and asks what he's doing out there. Tim, cool as ever, claims he's planting seeds. Marcus buys it and walks away. But unbeknownst to them, the old inmate has been quietly watching Tim and Leo and has pieced together what they're up to. He warns Tim to drop the escape plan. Getting caught trying to break out could add another 25 years to his sentence. The old man genuinely believes Tim doesn't stand a chance of pulling it off. But Tim realizes something important. If he's going to make this work, he needs more people on his team. He recruits a few more inmates to help smuggle supplies. The one thing Tim desperately needs, though, isn't inside the prison, it's outside. He needs a map of the prison's layout, because without understanding the full structure, there's no real way to plan an escape route. So the team signals the black cleaner to sneak in a newspaper from outside. The cleaner agrees, but wants cigarettes and soap in return, a deal Tim accepts. 206 days in, the cleaner shows up, and Tim signals him about the newspaper. The cleaner nods, confirming it's ready. What they don't know is that Marcus has been watching their silent exchange the whole time. Later, Tim sneaks out under the pretense of throwing out trash and, true to his word, sticks cigarettes and soap to the bottom of the trash bin using gum. He then retrieves the newspaper hidden inside, and with it, the prison's layout map. A few more days pass, and one day in his cell, Marcus brings Tim a new pair of glasses he'd ordered. But Marcus also delivers grim news. They hanged the black cleaner, because he'd been secretly smuggling supplies to prisoners. And Marcus admits he took pleasure watching the man suffer on the gallows. Tim is devastated, rage boiling beneath the surface. But he knows better than to pick a fight with Marcus now. They're too close to their escape to blow it over a confrontation. So Tim and Leo press forward, slipping out of their cells late one night and creeping down the stairs toward a grilled door. As Tim works to unlock it, sweat drips down onto the floor below. Suddenly, they hear footsteps approaching. Tim yanks the key out, and the trio scrambles into a nearby cabinet to hide. The cabinet door is held shut by a small screw that Leonard pins in place with his fingers. A heavy-set guard arrives and opens the grilled door, and right as he does, the screw slips from Leonard's grip. Luckily, the cabinet door only swings open a crack rather than fully, and they watch through the gap as the guard passes by, completely unaware, heading upstairs toward their cell block. Once he's gone, they slip back out and continue toward the steel gate. Tim inserts the key, and it turns smoothly. He's thrilled. Meanwhile, upstairs, the heavy-set guard is checking their cells, none the wiser that Tim and Leonard are missing. They'd stuffed blankets over pillows to look like sleeping bodies. While testing more doors below, they suddenly hear the old inmate coughing loudly from upstairs, a signal that the guard is heading back down. They scramble back into the cabinet just in time. As the guard descends, he notices water droplets on the floor. Tim sweats, and glances around suspiciously, but ultimately just wipes his foot over it and moves on without further investigation. Once he's clear, the trio emerges and heads back to their cells, with Tim stashing the wooden keys inside a mug. What Tim doesn't realize is that hiding the keys in that mug is about to become a serious problem. The next morning, the warden conducts a surprise cell inspection. Tim, exhausted from working through the night, is still asleep when the warden wakes him and demands to know why he was up all night. Tim stays silent, which only angers the warden further, who sends him outside while continuing the search. Outside, Tim watches as every cell gets searched one by one. When the warden reaches Tim's cell, he calls him in and starts scattering his belongings around. And that's when the wooden key fragments tumble out of the mug onto the floor. Tim's stomach drops, The warden picks up the piece and asks what it is. Fortunately, it's just the broken tip of the key, not recognizable as a key at all. Tim confidently claims it's a photo stand he made to hold a picture of his parents, even demonstrating by propping a photo against it. The warden's suspicion eases slightly. He then asks about the rope tied to the broom, and Tim explains he uses it to hang the broom on a wall hook. The warden calls him an idiot, hands the broom back, and walks off. Once he's gone, Tim's nerves catch up with him. He nearly has a panic attack, knowing that if the warden had figured out the escape plan, he would have been killed on the spot. From then on, Tim handles everything with extreme care, scattering the wooden keys across multiple hiding spots to avoid future risk. 404 days pass, and the trio decides they can't wait any longer. Tim wants to know exactly how many doors stand between them and freedom, so he fakes a toothache to get taken outside the prison, since there's no dentist on site. Marcus escorts him out, and along the way, Tim quietly counts every door they pass. He notices one grilled door that isn't key-operated at all. It's electronic, controlled only by a button inside the guard's room. Tim and Marcus cross the prison's final gate and step outside, giving Tim a full view of the prison's exterior layout. After his dental treatment at the hospital, he's brought back inside. Back in his cell, Tim gathers everyone and announces he's finished crafting duplicate keys for every single door in the building. Tonight, they're making their move. But aside from Leonard and Leo, the rest of the recruited helpers back out, convinced they'll get caught. Leonard warns them they'll regret staying behind. As evening approaches, the three of them change out of their prison uniforms into regular clothes. Meanwhile, a heavy-set guard with stomach trouble heads to the bathroom, only to find it clogged. He heads downstairs to the cabinet to grab a tool to fix it. While digging through the cabinet's contents, he spots a wire dangling from the door's screw, the very wire Leonard had been using to hold the cabinet shut during their earlier hideouts. The wire falls, and the guard picks it up and carries it off with him. Meanwhile, the trio continues moving through the grilled door and down the stairs. As they're about to push forward, they realize a guard is heading their way and scramble into the cabinet again, unaware that this is the exact same guard who just grabbed a tool from this very cabinet and is now returning to put it back. Once inside, they realize the wire that normally holds the door shut is missing. The guard had taken it with him. With time running out and the guard closing in, Tim grips the small screw with his fingers, struggling to hold the door shut manually. Moments later, the guard returns to put the tool away. Just then, the old inmate upstairs, in on the plan, smashes his cell light and starts screaming loudly, creating a distraction. The guard, now just steps from the cabinet, turns and heads back upstairs to investigate the commotion instead. And the trio narrowly escapes detection once again. With the guard gone, the path ahead is finally clear. They move quickly through several more doors until they hit one that has no physical lock at all, an electronic door wired to a button in the guard's office. If they touch it wrong, the whole prison alarm could go off. But since they'd already cleared that guard out of his post using the old inmate's distraction, the room is empty. Leonard slips back to the guard's room and presses the button, and the electronic door swings open. The three of them, overjoyed, push forward. Only one door left between them and freedom. Through a small gap, Tim peers out and spots the prison's main gate standing open, with the road beyond clearly visible. Freedom is just steps away, and the three of them embrace each other in pure joy. Then Tim tries his key on the final door. It doesn't fit. He tries another. Still nothing. One by one, he runs through every single key he's made. None of them work. Their hearts sink. After everything, all those months of grueling effort, it seems luck has finally turned against them, right at the final hurdle. Tim, defeated, says they'll have to go back and start working on a key for this last door too. But Leonard isn't willing to turn back, not when freedom is this close. He notices the lock is mounted on a wooden frame, grabs a chisel, and starts hacking at the frame. The noise echoes loudly through the prison, and Tim panics, terrified they'll get caught, urging Leonard to stop. But Leonard won't quit, continuing to strike at the lock. Tim dashes back through the corridor to check how far the sound is traveling, and realizes it's echoing through the entire building. Fearing the heavy-set guard might hear it, he rushes back to stop Leonard, but by the time he gets there, a large chunk of the wooden frame has already broken away, exposing the lock. Instead of telling him to stop, Tim urges him to keep going. A few more strikes, and the lock finally comes loose. The door swings open. They quickly change back into their regular clothes. Tim leads the way, easing the door open, and the three of them creep forward cautiously. Just as they near the exit, Tim spots a sniper stationed above, and they duck behind a wall. Using a small mirror, Tim tracks the guard's position on the rooftop, and the moment the guard turns toward the other side, they make their move, slipping through the main gate and out into the open. Outside, walking down the road, Tim spots Marcus talking to someone nearby. Heads down, they keep walking, and when two more guards approach, the trio's regular clothes keep them from being recognized. They manage to put real distance between themselves and the prison. Eventually, they reach a taxi stand. One section for black passengers, another for white passengers, per the segregation laws of the time. Tim approaches a black taxi driver, offers him cash, and asks to be taken to their destination. The driver hesitates, telling them they should take the white taxi section since they're white. Tim insists they want to ride with him specifically, and the driver, visibly moved by white men treating him with this kind of respect for the first time, agrees and drives off with them. Back at the prison, the next morning unfolds. Marcus goes cell to cell waking up the inmates, including opening Tim's cell door and calling out for him to get up before moving on to the next prisoner. A few minutes later, all the inmates are lined up outside, except Tim is nowhere to be seen. Furious, Marcus storms into Tim's cell and shakes what he thinks is Tim under the blanket, only to discover it's just a pillow dressed up to look like a sleeping body. Panic sets in. Marcus, terrified of losing his job, rushes off toward the warden's office. Meanwhile, the other inmates lined up outside erupt in celebration, none more thrilled than the old inmate, his face glowing with pride. These three men had pulled off something everyone believed was impossible, breaking free from what had felt like a living hell. Overwhelmed, they weep tears of pure joy. And with that, this film, based on a true story, comes to its end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and smash that like button